Hello, everybody. So, in preparation for this, we were asked like 3 different questions. The first one being, how has the program impacted me in my spiritual life? The 412 program has shown me the importance of the gospel and the Word of God in my everyday life, and being a part of this program has opened my eyes to how hungry the next generation is for truth and what is real. It's helped me understand that we all have a vital part in delivering the truth to them. The second question was what my favorite memory is from the program. And I was sitting there trying to think about it, and I was like, there's just so many. But I narrowed it down to this one. And my favorite memory from my time in this program is the weekend where I had to train Thomas on how to do dishes. Before knowing that I was going to be working with Thomas all weekend, I was pretty excited to be up here. After I learned that, I was significantly less excited. But I got here, and I was told that I was training him. And the way I viewed Thomas at this point was someone who couldn't really control himself and someone that I absolutely did not relate to at all. However, as the weekend went on, I watched Thomas really come out of his shell, and by the end of it, I'm pretty sure I was his new best friend. We had a blast together as we worked side by side in the dish area, and we got them done at a surprisingly efficient rate. I'll never forget the way he taught me to never judge a peer based off of their appearance or your own preconceived notions of them, and never to count anyone as less than you just because they're different. That weekend, I not only made a new friend, but I found a brother I never would have intentionally interacted with if there was not so many dishes to be done. I'm so thankful for the way that God has used both me and Thomas through this program. And the last thing I'd like to share is a significant verse that's been important to me throughout my time here. And that would be 2 Corinthians 12, 9 through 10, which says, "But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me. For the sake of Christ, then, I am content with weaknesses, insults, hardships, persecutions, and calamities, for when I'm weak, then I'm strong." And this verse has had a special place in my own life and my time in the program, because the one week during the summer, I was made a junior counselor with Isaac as my senior counselor, and he can tell you too, it was a pretty rough week. We had a lot of campers that didn't listen, and I just kind of reached my breaking point with them on Tuesday night, and I was sitting in the back of the chapel with one of our boys who was having a particularly rough time paying attention, and I was flipping through my verse pack, and I found an index card in it with that verse written on it. And being at my weakest at that point and reading that verse, it just really encouraged me and really just made me realize that, in my weakness, that's when the Lord does the most. And that week, 4 of our campers ended up giving their lives to Christ. And it was just such a cool way to see the Lord just transform that week into something that I thought would never end to something that I look back on and just relish. So thank you.
Hello there, I'm Caleb, and I've been in the program for 2 years now. Before I joined the 412 program, I already had a relationship with Christ, and I knew I wanted to serve Him. As you may know, one of the spiritual disciplines taught in the 412 is developing our testimonies. In my first year here, I had to write out my testimony, which really made me think, why do I believe what I believe? After writing my testimony, I realized my faith was built on encounters with God and His Word, the Bible. This was enough for me to believe in God, but I was and still am at the age where kids start questioning the world around them. So as a teen, I did. The idea of understanding why I believe, what I believe, and what I believe is actually reasonable has taken up a lot of space in my mind the past year. To be very clear, I never deconstructed my faith or rejected God, but at times where I had doubts and questions. Through the leadership training summits, resources provided by Joel, and my own research, I've learned that the Bible is reliable and that without God, nothing would exist. Through this, my faith in God has strengthened and my love for Jesus has grown, along with developing my spiritual testimony. Along with developing my testimony, Joel has kept me accountable in the discipline of Bible reading and prayer. I believe without Joel, my walk with Jesus would not be as healthy as it is today. My favorite memory as Joel is when Nick and Cruz got us guys Dino Nugget plushies at the end of summer camp on the debrief weekend. We all had them. We all took them to the last worship session at the end of the weekend, and everyone was worshiping with a Dino Nugget plushie raised in the air. And I thought it was cool to see everybody having fun while praising God. Verse memorization is highly encouraged in the 412 program. This is something that has helped me a lot in my own life, and is something I continue to do. A passage that has stuck with me is James 1, chapter 1, verse 2 to 4. Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds. For you know that testing of your faith produces steadfastness. And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete. This verse has reminded me that we all go through trials, but we don't have to let them break us. I believe Jesus came not so we won't go through suffering, but to prosper in our suffering. He changes our perspective and builds character so we can glorify him. Verse 5 of the passage says, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all, without reproach, and it will be given to him. I have and still struggle with anxiousness. But when I ask God for wisdom, he helps me see that I need to rely on him, and he gives me the boldness I need. I've seen much fruit from this simple practice of scripture memory, and hope all of you incorporate this in your own lives. I'm thankful for this 412 program and all the leaders who sacrifice for the students. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Johanna. Sorry. So the first question was, how has the 412 program impacted you and your relationship with God? Each year has challenged me in a different way, overcoming fears and relying more on God. Serving in the 412 program has not been easy for me personally. It seemed like every summer something big happened that would challenge me in some way spiritually. I was faced with a lot of fear each summer, but each time, God was faithful and kept calling me back to rejoin each of the 5 years. Now as I look toward graduation, I feel fear of the unknown rising again. Yet, I'm grateful to know that God has been with me when I faced fears in the past, and know he will be with me as I face fears in the future. It's a favorite memory. In general, my time serving on media has been my favorite. I love taking pictures of kids attending camp, especially capturing them during worship sessions with their hands in the air, and when their voices would get louder than the music. There's just something really special about getting to witness that. More specifically, one of my favorite memories from serving on media was during my level 3 year, when I served as media assistant for Timmy and Caitlin. During some free time, I found a box of old cameras in the dining hall basement and looked through them. Most of the files were corrupted, but we did have fun looking through the few that weren't and trying to guess who were in the photos. We ended up taking a photo together and putting it back in the box for someone else to find. A significant verse. In Matthew 11:28, Jesus says, "Come unto me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." This verse is significant to me because the speaker during my level 2 summer said this verse during a session. I'd been stressing a lot and was having some doubts in the weeks leading up and during that week at camp, and the verse really stuck with me. After leaving my burdens at Jesus' feet, I felt more at peace than I had the whole week of camp. It has continued to impact me today.
Hello. So question 1 was, how has the 412 program impacted your relationship with God? So with the 412 program, I was able to build up healthy habits to grow closer to God, because I came to the 412 program wanting to learn like how I grew that relationship with him. And I was able to learn a lot and just get into a routine. And at the LTSs, I was able to go to all of the different classes and stuff they had, and I got to learn a lot, and I was very invested. My favorite memory being in the 412 program, in the morning sometimes during retreats or during like working a week of summer camp, some of the girls would get together and do a Bible study at the observation tower, and just that time together was really great to have that fellowship and grow closer with God together and grow closer to each other. It was really nice. And then significant verse would be, I think it's Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he will make your path straight. That verse has really helped me throughout like this time in my life and in picking like and trying to navigate through life and what I want to do. So yeah.
Rough start. So, my bad. I didn't check my email until yesterday. So, I don't have like a cool transition, like sheet of paper like the rest of you guys. So I got my questions while Isaiah was talking. So, how has the program impacted me? So, coming into the program, you know, I was raised in a very Christian home, and I was always around that environment, but my faith was always a product of just what the world around me was telling me. And, you know, being here at camp, we have the unique opportunity to not only be poured into, but we are doing the pouring into others. So, like, of course, we are a summer camp, so we have the responsibility to be able to pour into like 10 to 12 kids every week. And if you don't know what you believe and why you believe it, you're not going to be as effective in your ministry as a counselor. And that really tested me because, believe it or not, like, these kids have hard questions. Like, I had a kid ask me if people who are on like a stranded island are just condemned to hell and they don't really have a hope in life. And I was like, dang, I don't know how to answer that. So, like, these kids will genuinely test you, and especially with the upper level kids, you kind of gravitate into a leadership role to the lower students. So if you don't know what you believe and why you believe it, then they are going to look to you for your answers, and now your faith has to become your own. And I would say that's the biggest thing that this program has done for me. It's just made me realize that I need to know my stuff. I need to know like my history. I need to know the events. I need to know, like, be able to critically think and to be able to formulate my own thoughts. So that was huge for me. And my favorite memory actually kind of goes along with this. It would be this last LTS. I guess that's the January LTS. It was really good LTS. So it was my last one. I had told myself that I would never like be in here because I don't know, I told myself I'd never eat at this dining hall again, and here I am today. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna play till the buzzer. I'm gonna leave it all out there at the LTS. And me and Isaiah, I think we genuinely did, and we made it our mission to you know, set the example for the lower level students. When I was coming up in the program, I didn't have the best upper level students. I can say that because my brothers were my mentors, and my upper level students. But beyond just them, we didn't have the most mature guys. So I just wanted to be that to them because I didn't have those positive influences, and I didn't want to hand off the program to people who I wouldn't want them to be like equipped. Hopefully that makes sense. But that was my favorite, just leaving everything out at the last LTS. And a significant verse for me is John 3:30 and Matthew 16:24. So John 3:30 is kind of niche. So John the Baptist is saying he must become greater and I must become less. And Matthew 16:24, Jesus is commanding his disciples to deny themselves daily, to pick up their cross, and to follow him. Now that has really stuck out to me and impacted me because just the humility that John the Baptist has to say, to be able to say, like, he must become greater in every aspect of my life, and I'm going to put myself off so that I can hollow out like the earthly and the worldly desires that I have so that I can allow myself to be filled with somebody else. And just the humility that John the Baptist had, because he had followers, he had people who looked up to him as a leader, but he was overjoyed when the people asked him, like, are you upset that people are leaving you to go follow Jesus? And he says, no, I'm not upset at all. Like, I'm so happy because this guy has become greater for me. And just that humility of John the Baptist to be able to say, like, my life's mission is to prepare the way for the Messiah, and now our mission, and Jesus, the mission that Jesus called us to, is to prepare the way for the second coming of the Messiah. And we do that through denying ourselves and allowing ourselves and just having that humility to empty ourselves out so that we can be filled with somebody who has a better way for us. So I would say that is my favorite verse. So yeah, thank you.